Welcome to the Evening Gamer. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Guy. Welcome, everybody.
Episode 69.
68?
You sure?
68. I think so. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's 68.
Oh.
Welcome back, everybody. It has been a spell since you've last heard from us. The events of our lives continue to make keeping a gaming podcast running a challenge at times. So, when was the last time we recorded? It was maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Who knows?
I don't think it was that long ago. We did the old double barrel.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So we went 1-2 real quick.
Yeah.
And then I think we went week after week. So I think there was back to back there. But yeah, I think by the time this comes out, it'll be close to a month. So kind of like
Fair.
Beyond that 3-ish weeks.
And to be fair, during that time, there hasn't exactly been a lot of drops. I think Pragmata, Forza, and then one other one that occurred during that time. But I think most people have kind of been smashing Crimson Desert. That's I think taken up a lot of people's time who jumped on that train. And we've kind of talked about that one. We haven't done a full review of it.
Nah, I suspect that'll take you a little bit to get through though.
Well, yeah, I'm halfway through it and I ended up pausing it just to move on because other games are coming out. But kind of looking ahead, I feel like there might be a little bit of a gap after the next flurry, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Speaking of flurries,
yes.
I sent you a photo of it the other day, but I feel like Subnautica 2, shadow dropped. You said there's a new release. An early release Subnautica 2 out. And I was reading it and I was like, how...
Early access?
Early access. How much of the game is this actually? Because I always get, I downloaded the second Grounded and it was half the game at the time. And I was like,
yeah, right.
There's no point playing this. But with the Subnautica 2, they were like, nope, this might not change. This is the game.
I think I read
filter feedback and everything, but this is it.
Yeah. I read something that it was the first about 10, 15 hours of story is there. And so there is some more to come. But it is a fairly complete early access drop as they go from what I've read.
Which is weird because 3 weeks ago, it mustn't have been more than 3-4 weeks ago that I Googled when it was coming out to stay on top of that and potentially do the news on the podcast. And it was still not really, that's such a quick, okay, it's ready, do it.
I don't know.
Can't complain.
Yeah. I'm fairly sure they had a date lined up for it, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I also started playing Outlast Trials. Do you remember talking about Outlast Trials earlier?
I do, yeah. It was on your list for a while there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I might save that for another time.
Okay.
But I've started playing that. Pretty good.
Okay. I've got 2 on my list that I sort of come out recently that I thought would be worth you having a look in, which is obviously Forza Horizon 6, with a steering wheel rig that you've got there, sort of right up your alley and set in Tokyo, Japan. From what I've seen, looks pretty good,
And the Forza games are so fun on a steering wheel pedal setup.
Yeah, exactly. I think that could be worth a purchase for yourself during some pat leave there, my friend.
I think because the F1 games on that setup, you have to be really precise.
Yeah.
You're around the track, it's to margins. But Forza's just around the city.
Yeah. Didn't you recently just go to Japan? Was it Japan you went to?
Yeah. Over Christmas, yeah.
Yeah. Then you can drive around the streets.
I might recognize them now.
You got noodles out. You can put some burnouts and donuts on those main streets.
That's it.
Sounds like a great time. And there's also Directive 8020, which I think you should check out. There's sort of 2 games I think you should put on your list.
I will do. You also recommended a movie to me today.
TV show, yes. Horror one. What was it called? It was something Bay.
I put you on the spot.
You did put me on the spot, but I have been aware of it. I recently heard about it. It is called Widow's Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Which is 8.2 IMDb, comedy horror. The horror components of it look pretty gnarly. I know you're a big fan of From, I think, and this could be something that ticks your boxes. I
love when I see a horror.
Yeah.
I feel like horror TV shows do way better than horror movies when it comes to rating.
You reckon?
Oh man, for sure. I see some half decent horror movies, and on IMDb they get mid 5s.
Yeah,
and you're come on, man, that's better than 5. I think horror's all about mystery, right? And I think that's easier to roll out over the course of a TV show in an entertaining way.
But also, I know what you mean. Yeah.
To have a 90-minute movie,
and
be we got to quickly shift to this thing, and probably by the end of it, it's not that you're fatigued with their horror themes, but you're kind of used to them. So I
No,
feel
I
like
know what you mean. Yeah,
horror
yeah,
movies
yeah.
like really like drag out for the last 40 minutes. You're like, I've seen the scares, just wrap up the storyline now. Whereas like a TV
Yeah.
show is like you have way more character development. So I think horrors typically perform a lot better in a TV show format.
You know what I reckon, and like I think I could be wrong on this. This is like totally off the cuff, but I reckon sometimes horror movies. I mean, this could apply for TV shows as well. But like people might go to watch it and then be disgusted by it, and then they just mark it down because it
Gore
wasn't
element.
nice. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and it's sort of like, well, isn't that the whole reason that you saw it in the first place?
And that's actually a distinction that I'm more keen to be involved in this genre. Is like I don't think like horror overlaps with gore, but horror's also become that kind of standard, like almost like what The Exorcist kind of trailblazed. You know, the whole like possession, paranormal, demon thing. Like that's horror. That's textbook horror. And that, but horror as a genre really overlaps with gothic, as you said, like gothic overtones, really gory. Yeah, like and when you think of like really gory, you think like the Evil Dead's like prime example of like old school horror gore.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I'm fine with gore, but it's certainly not why I watch horror movies.
No,
so
fair.
I think you're onto something there.
I think there's two that are, one's about to come out, one's have recently come out, a movie called Obsession, and then another one called The Back Rooms, which is about to come out, which I think they did a video game on, but this YouTube director, you would have seen him on your reels and stuff. So Obsession, The Back Rooms, both I've heard good things.
Did you see as well that Weapons is getting a spin-off and it's following the witch auntie lady?
Oh, like I think it's a prequel, yeah.
That'll be... Yeah. I mean, I know you're not huge on horror, and I didn't even know that until you went to see that and complained at me for like pushing you to go watch it. But that could be all right. Like they directed Weapons pretty well. There's a lot happening in the horror space.
Yeah, there is a lot happening in the horror space. I feel like it's having quite the revival. But like, I'm just really like picky with the horror movies I see. Like, I wouldn't see Hereditary or some of these other ones. You know, it really has to kind of tick some boxes to make me go, okay, I'll give it a go. Like the Resident Evil one that's going to come out. You know, like the new one of that. The trailer for that looks pretty cool. I'll give that a go. I'll force myself through it. Like like movies like Alien, you know, where it's kind of thriller horror at times. You'll be like, okay, like I'll force myself through a Prometheus or something, just purely, you know, because it's sci-fi horror. But then there's other ones where you're just like, nah, I'm not. I don't like that stuff.
I also think because horror movies are quite jarring. So like when you just like the average punter, meaning someone that isn't huge on movies, can go and watch a rom-com, maybe a smallish little thriller, probably get through it's fine. But like horror can be quite offensive, quite in your face, quite jarring, like just the average movie watcher. So that's why I think you're right. I think there's a few things that put people offside.
Yeah.
Just before we move on as well, and by shifting gears here, it just came to mind. In our last episode, I kind of labeled what a Souls-like game was like. And when you're doing a podcast and you're doing it live, like sometimes you just fill the space with words, right? Like, and I think I mentioned in that criteria that I would like Souls, or to, part of that criteria is that Souls-lights have to be open world, which is definitely not what I meant at the time. That was certainly just my preference. And we got a couple of comments on YouTube being like, that's a stupid criterion to have. And in retrospect, I completely agree. So if anyone's listening that likes Souls games, I would also remove open world being a requirement, because it's absolutely criteria. Not. I've played tons of Souls-lights that are so to speak.
I hear what and like, there's been times, obviously, we've been getting a bit more in the social media game, putting up clips, and like, some of the things that we post on there do get rinsed a tiny bit. There was one I put up not that long ago, which was my sort of brief thing on Saros, and there was a comment on that sort of going, it's woke storyline or something like that. And I was like, sort of, obviously you look into it and you go, what are they actually talking about? Like, how have I missed that and how it's woke or something? I don't know. But anyway, we are in the opinion game, T. We're throwing out opinions. We're reviewing games. We've said it before of going, IGN gets slammed every time, and they've recently done another one, speaking of IGN, called Mixtape. Are you aware of this game? Have you heard anything about it?
Nah.
So it's like, I was aware of it. It got a perfect 10 from IGN.
Of course.
And they're getting dragged from it because it's basically more an animated movie than kind of a video game. So like there's like somebody who's streaming themselves, and they basically held up their controller to the screen going, I'm not touching anything, and the character was doing everything. And it was like roller skating down a hill. Like you can apparently play the whole game without barely touching the controller once, which is pretty wild.
It's not a
10.
game. That's not a game.
It's sort of an interactive movie as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
but look,
I completely agree.
IGN, they've got a bit of a sordid history of doing some wild reviews. But
we got to come up with our own evening gamer abbreviation, mock abbreviation for IGN. I'm going to brainstorm this offline and come with it next week. Something else that IGN can stand for. That is an IGN, but perfectly is indicative of how they just lie to you about ratings for games.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a lie. Like, I think they need to spend more time. Like, it's like one person's opinion, and it's that reviewer going like, oh, this speaks to me specifically, without it being like, well, is it everyone's cup of tea? And like, what they should probably do is do a review by, not sort of, what's the word? Sort of a committee, have like 3, 4, 5, 6 people review it. And then it's the summary of all their reviews, give it. If all of them are saying, yeah, it's fantastic, then, I don't know. I just don't think they get, anyway, look, we could get into it. But what else is on my list for you? So Crimson Desert keeps rolling out updates to that game. And they are getting, like, they're becoming like the pinup of post-launch like support, where it's not just like they don't even have a roadmap. They basically just almost like dropping, going, we've now done X, Y, and Z. These were on people's wish lists, and it's becoming like a pinup for post-launch support. It's really impressive. Like, a lot of the complaints they'll address, they address. And like, now you look at the game and you're just like, my word, like some of the enhancements and developments they've put into that game since they've even dropped it. Really impressive.
I mean, this is what we're after. Some of the games that we're constantly talking about on here, Cyberpunk, No Man's Sky, to name a few, follow that methodology of like, we might not get this right the first time, but bear with us. We'll make those changes, intermittently. Yeah. And we'll make them off the back end of your hard work.
Your feedback, 100%.
Yeah. Buy the gamers for the gamers.
That's as it should be. So the 2 games that are coming out in the month of May that I am particularly keen for is Lego Batman, May 22nd, so only a few days away, and then 007 First Light a few days after that. So I am going to have my time cut out for me, which thankfully I'll have a little bit soon coming up, and we'll probably go back to back on Lego Batman and First Light. T, I think if sort of with your time off, we should designate a couple of games for you to devote some time to. And get a review, but maybe Pragmata. Maybe there could be one for you to do that was a recent drop. That maybe I'm sure would be good.
I also reckon that we could probably do a few episodes of games we've both played, and make it a proper discussion about those games. And I think 007 would fit that perfectly. It's been so long since a decent game. It's going to be interesting to see which kind of route they take here. It's very mission-based, linear first-person shooter. From my understanding, it's going to be very much like Hitman. I don't think Hitman nailed their last game. I liked kind of the level of creativity I had in their level design and the autonomy that you had with the mission statement. But it's just going to be very interesting because, like, what are the earlier games like Splinter Cell and stuff like that, right? Like, we don't really have a lot of these like mission-based 007 Hitman games anymore. First-person shooter has heavily been focused on like the Battlefield COD kind of realm of things, and even like Assassin's been dominated by Assassin's Creed, which we know isn't it's not really a modern day game, although it has modern elements. So I'm really, really excited for the 007 game.
Same. I think it'll be really good. Like, everything I've seen, I think it looks really exciting. Speaking of Assassin's Creed, they're going to re-release Black Flag. Did you ever do Black Flag when it was?
No, I didn't, but I did see that.
Mate, that could be one for you. I'm be keen to hear a re-release version and what they've improved, and that could be a good one. That would be a good one, I reckon.
And that'd be a great little back catalogue, Eric. That's a good game. That's held in high regard, that one, as one of the best ACs, right?
Yeah, and like, it is by and large like the best AC, I think, game ever. Like, I largely would think that one is the best one that they've done. I really enjoyed that one.
Hopefully, I agree. I'll get on that for sure. I'll play a remaster.
Yeah, nice.
Love a remaster.
Yeah. Especially if you've never played it before. Like, that's sort of a remaster is perfect opportunity to jump into it.
100%.
Shall we get to today's game? Do you want me to rip through this fucking thing? All right, here 100%. We go. So today's review, everybody, we are reviewing Saros. So you would have seen me do a little clip if you follow us on the Evening Gamer Instagram. But here I am doing the full review, top to bottom. I've given it a really good go. I haven't 100% completed it, like a completionist completed it, but I have completed the game, so to speak. So I haven't gotten every fucking audio log and, done it to the nth degree and platinumed it or whatever, but I can give a very good assessment of this game. So for those of you that don't know, third-person game, bullet hell, action shooter, roguelike, done by House Marquee, Finnish developer. Previous game was Returnal. Everybody knows, we've talked about it probably ad nauseum, really high on my list of favorite games of all time. So it's not a direct sequel, but it does have its DNA and quite heavily its DNA. So it's very similar in its sort of the mechanics of the game, if you will. But a new storyline, new coat of paint, a bit of an update. So how does it generally hold up? So, my expectations of Returnal being one of my favorite games of all time, does it meet my expectations, or is it unfortunately not quite there? In my little Instagram reel, I said, look, it is there, but there is a but. There is a but. And I'm going to take you through where is that but. So the storyline, we follow Arjun Devraj is his name, and he's an enforcer, so a military guy, for a company called Soltari Corporation. You've landed on the planet called Carcosa, and you've been sent there to investigate the previous expeditions, which there was 3 of, I think 2 or 3, who had the goal of mining the planet for this corporation of a very specific resource, a very powerful resource. The other 3 landings have kind of gone, black, like, they sort of don't know what's happened to them, and you've now been sent there to kind of figure it out with a small crew along with you. On one of the previous expeditions was your girl Nitya, and so you're kind of motivated to find out what happened to her. Where'd your girl go? What's going on with her?
Already their theme, and for the game is so similar. Like Returnal was the same thing. You found remnants of previous events, and you would constantly,
you do. Yeah.
So they love that. They love a game that uncovers a truth that's of the past.
I do. Yeah, thematically,
there's
100%. I agree. Now, I won't give you more of the storyline because I don't want to ruin the storyline for people. It is a really new game. I do think people should play it, so I don't want to go too deep in it. But so as generally as the storyline goes, as you just said, with Returnal, it being a spiritual successor, that is the game I will directly compare it to. It is the obvious game that you would directly compare it to. So in isolation, Saros's storyline is sort of serviceable. It makes sense. It's justifiable, as in it connects to the mechanics of the game. Why are you on this roguelite repetition and doing multiple runs? But in terms of sort of if Returnal Story basically just had more depth to me, and gave me a deeper view, of sort of what she was going through, the main character in that game, as opposed to Devraj. I just kind of was like, okay, cool, man. It wasn't revolutionary. I didn't walk away going wow, they told a really unique story. The cutscenes really, they were there. They were interesting. They was sort of visually certainly appealing, but, I just kind of wasn't blown off my chair like it kind of was with Returnal, and that led to me to kind of go, look, because it didn't resonate with me, I give it a 7.5 for storytelling. Sound, that was it. Straightforward, there's the score. So world building. So it does do a good job of setting up sort of the planet you're on, the various biomes that you run through. Each of them have kind of a distinct style, and the justification for that style makes sense. The details of the previous expeditions, why Devraj is able to come back to life, what actually occurred on the planet with the previous expeditions. If the storyline is the sort of what occurs in the sandpit of the journey within it, world building being the category of what sandpit did they actually play and set up to, play within, it's a solid 9. They gave you all the pieces for a really cool world, that they could have done something that was really fun within.
And that's something they're good at, like the biomes and their world build in, because I haven't played Saros, so I am as well. I am also going to, small stroke, I don't know what happened there, going to compare it to Returnal.
Yeah.
And you're right. World 1 was this, World 2 was that, all very different, well built, top down, wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, sparse.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, like with Returnal, like you get to the undersea area. There's sort of the desert area. They've all got kind of a real different flavor and different kind of enemy archetypes within it. And this one, it does have the same. And we often talk about enemy variety in games, and I'd say this game does have probably a little bit more enemy variety, but not. I wouldn't say significantly so. I think when I reviewed Returnal, I sort of said, look, when House Marquee does their sequel, it's going to be bigger and better and this and that. That's kind of what I was hoping. Would they take this not small game, but this game and kind of ramp it up, and give it kind of a whole, let's go full on with it. And this just, didn't kind of take it to the next level for me. It was kind of just a different coat of paint.
Yeah, but that's also the danger of doing a real good game your first time around. Like Returnal was by no means concept art. That was a fully thought out, well constructed, incredibly well written storyline, free flowing, mechanically brilliant game.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is probably more of a reactive release. It's like that went so well. Why don't we try to do that again?
I know what you mean.
Build on it. And
it's like the lightning in the bottles thing of going like, we created lightning in the bottle one time, like, can we do it again? And it just goes like, whether, and you always want to be a fly on the wall. We talk about it in the past where they make these creative decisions where they go, are we deviating too far from, the spine that worked previously, and are we breaking what we've done? And in trying to replicate their previous work, I don't know if it's reactionary. Like I think Saros, they've certainly put the time and this, it's got a fully functioning story world, all the rest of it. But I just think they kind of took what they did there and tried to recreate it and just didn't quite do as well as they did the first time. I don't think they may have even known what they'd really done in the first one that made it such a game that people like really loved, and this kind of hidden gem that's not really that hidden anymore.
Yeah, but in its own right, it's sounding like a very good game.
It is, like it certainly is, and it will score well. So moving on to character dev. So Devraj, the lead guy, he certainly develops over the course of the game, even more so in the flashbacks, along with the other characters that are in the base camp. Each are unique, they're interesting to have a conversation with. A nice little bit of trivia that I'm not sure everybody will find in this is in your base camp, in the med area, is hung up body bags of sort of other people who are on the expedition, and you can kind of go look at them, and they've got name tags on them. And so, I won't sort of give anything away, but certainly worth going back to and checking the bodies on that sort of the hooks in the morgue or whatever it is.
Easter egg.
Yeah, a little Easter egg for you. But so the version of these characters that at the start of the game versus at the end of it, they certainly change. There has been some hate online of sort of Devraj being sort of, a simp or like a woke dude. And you just kind of like look like, is it a loud subquadrant of the gaming community? Like, was I playing in it and going like, oh, this sort of gives me the ick and is cringe? Not really. Like, they've just chosen a specific storyline, and I don't know if they're trying to tell some wider cultural opinion. It's something that happens in this dude's life, So yeah, the characters do develop. So I give it an 8. Didn't fully resonate with me, but it's an 8. So overall, we're looking at an 8.2 for the storytelling kind of side of our two sides that we go through here.
It's pretty good. Solid.
Yeah, not bad. 8.2. It's solid. It's solid. So the other side, this is where, Saros really earns its stripes. Like I think it's storyline wise, it didn't knock me out of the park. Mechanics challenge, this is where it is good. It's verging on great. It's certainly good. So in the mechanics and challenge category, so essentially you go on runs, call them expeditions, whatever you want to call them. You go out of the base to explore. Each run, each area is randomly generated. As you defeat more bosses, you unlock more weapons and skills. So the replayability of this game is really high. As you do another run, you have more skills to unlock more areas that you couldn't do in the last run. So the overarching style of the game, is essentially running and gunning, dodging, parrying, grappling, alt-firing, using an ultimate weapon. A tip for anyone with these games, whether it's Returnal or Saros, don't ever stop moving. Keep going and don't get cornered. I'd rather try and dash past a boss that's like filled with projectiles coming at me than get stuck in a corner, and just get mobbed. So you eventually kind of like get into this flow state with the game, like you would with a racing game where you are just in a sort of a flying kind of flow where wave after wave, you're never getting hit. You're just in sync with the controls, and it's super addicting. Like it's you just switch your brain off and you just kind of merge with this character And it's a delight. Like, it's a real pleasure to kind of clear multiple areas without ever getting hit or tapped or dying. Like, it's super fun in that regard. One thing that kind of irked me, though, so coming to the challenge side of it and comparing it again to Returnal, I found this game a lot easier. And like a lot of people have sort of said that Saros is kind of a little bit easier, whether by design or not. The feedback from House Marquee goes, well, you can actually make the game harder by putting sort of in-game, sort of, what do they call it? There's a specific word for it, but like modifiers, where it's like, okay, your damage does a little bit less, like the enemy's damages do more. You know, you can't pick up certain items or whatever it is. So you could make the game more difficult. But like, I guess I'm a purist in that I want the gaming company to set the bar, like an Elden Ring. You tell me how difficult that boss is, and my job is to overcome that and defeat that boss. And I don't really like having the power in my hands to stack it either in my favor or against my favor. Like, I appreciate that. And that's probably in response to them with Returnal getting feedback saying it's too difficult. So many people dropped it because they couldn't defeat the first boss or the second boss or whatever else.
Yeah.
And it's all right, fine. But nonetheless, I just found it easier. Whether that's good or bad, it wasn't, didn't certainly excite me. And the unfortunate thing is, the great thing with Returnal was that as you played through that game, you'd hit a boss and the boss would defeat you. And you'd then learn its first phase, and then learn its second phase, and then learn its third phase. And you'd go through and go, I know I have to clear every area of this biome to get enough gear and upgrades to take on that boss, and to run it through. Whereas in Saros, I cleaned 3 bosses in one run.
Which
just
shouldn't
went
be happening.
Bang, bang, bang. Like,
that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and it was frustrating.
Unless technically you've just killed it for those 3 battles. But I think there's two things happening here, and maybe this is probably more of a conversation for like a rant episode. But I sit next to a guy at work who has a couple of younger kids. They're kind of getting into their kind of like, double digits, so they're getting interested in like playing games and stuff. And they play a game here or there, and he says that like some of these new games that are coming out, just there's no challenge to them. And it's almost like trying to feed this shortcoming of instant gratification to these younger audiences that we're seeing. Because like, you can essentially now have in a first world country, everything is at your fingertips. You know what I mean? The internet is in your pocket, right? So there's this kind of like element of like instant gratification. And if something can't hold someone, they put it down really quickly. I think that's definitely we're starting to see that seep in to gaming a little bit. Whereas like, because even for me, like Kazan, people talking about that being a Souls-like, did not challenge me, mate. There are a couple of fun boss fights, but there certainly weren't like Melania, Mikola level kind of fights. Yeah. Whereas like, holy shit, I need to do my build again. I need to actually go away and just like farm runes and power up. Yeah, there was no bookmark or hurdle like that in front of me in those games. I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is actually, objectively, we're getting better at gaming. Far better.
I mean, each generation, like the reaction speed, the reflexes of it all, like totally agree with you. Yeah.
The and movement tech, how much movement has become a part of gaming, especially FPS battle royales, where like survival and playing life is so much more important now in gaming, especially with the inductions of battle royales. You die, it's over usually. Like that's where they started. There's been changes and nuances since, but that's essentially where they started. So I think as a gaming community, we've gotten a lot better at being conscious of how long we survive. And in these games, that's a lot of the challenge, is actually surviving. And I found it in Doom as well. Every single time I had a challenging thing in Doom, some of those levels would take me like 30 minutes, some of those boss fights, because so much of it was just surviving. And just, they're kind of like the old boxing thing. Like a lot of it's dodging, a lot of it's ducking and weaving, and then you get your jab in when you can, and then you know what I mean? And like, so I think that's why, like you got to look at it from that thing. Are they trying to pander to instant gratification and holding audiences that don't have long attention spans? And have I just gotten better?
But yeah, like I think on the front one, we could have a rant episode and discuss it in great detail, but you could be right that there is like, from a commercial point of view, going, if we make this game easier for the masses, more people will buy the game. Like that's certainly, those people who are put off by Returnal's difficulty, Kyle, may be more open and susceptible to this game and keen to give it a go, and like maybe this could be the gateway to go back to Returnal. You could be right. Totally.
Which is why I'm still a big fan of like, let me choose the difficulty. Just have different levers that change. You know, like
Yeah.
if I want to play it really hard, let me.
Yeah. I mean, this one, the modifiers in it are vast. Like, it has a whole sort of chart where you can go, right, I'm going to plus the difficulty twice here, minus it one there, and kind of almost make the game, bespoke to you in a very kind of niche way, which, I don't know. Like, it just kind of, I fiddled with it a fair bit at times, and just, I don't know. I'd rather it just kind of go, this is how it is. Or you've got to finish the game completely to then have the ability to modify it like that or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. I think there's a very small percentage of gamers that truly like a really, really hard challenge.
Yeah.
I think and I think that's why Souls games became such a craze initially. It was like, actually, this is hard. This isn't just the Zelda tutorial.
Yeah, I think there was stats they did on that where it was like how many people actually completed Elden Ring versus who bought it, and it's got a huge drop-off rate. People, couldn't surpass certain bosses. But anyway, so mechanics challenge, I gave an 8.5. So moving on to entertainment, won't spend too long on the category. Yes, I was highly entertained throughout, whether it was a story, cutscenes, boss fights, exploring the base, really sound in that area, 9.5, no criticisms really on it, aside from the story wasn't revolutionary. That's the only thing I can probably not mark it a 0.5 down with. Okay. Moving on to the build. So with each run, you would pick up various artifacts that grant you special abilities. You get different weapons or ultimates. I didn't mind this. This is very much the same as Returnal. And with Returnal, though, there were parasites. And like the way in which the UI actually displayed the stats in Returnal was kind of really clear and obvious of going, oh, okay, this does this, okay, that does that. It kind of all made a lot more sense. Whereas in Saros, it's like you'll pick up a gun and it'll have modifiers on it and you'll be like, okay, what do they actually mean? You have to kind of go into your settings, hover over the gun, and it just kind of was a little bit deeply lost, whereas I would have liked a little bit of an easier explanation for what the certain kind of effects on a weapon actually did, but that's niche. But the only thing I'll say in the build category, sort of weapons-wise as well, is that Returnal had what felt like a lot more options of weapons. There was, a machine gun, a handgun, a rocket launcher, the electro pylon, some laser cannon. There was then the hollow seeker. Like there was probably 8 or 9 or 10 guns that then had other modifiers within it that kind of gave you a huge array of, what does this gun do? What does that gun do? And that was kind of fun. Whereas in this game, I think there's really only about 4 or 5 guns. And, by the last gun, I was like, oh, sick. Like, what's this one? And I found it kind of the worst gun of them all. Like, and this chakram gun that like sometimes you pick up and you go, okay, this is kind of cool, but I don't know. Most of the time I was kind of running with a machine gun going, this gun pumps out the most damage, is the most fun to play with. The shotgun occasionally, but the bullet spread almost always was way too wide, and you're just kind of spraying the whole screen.
Weapon balancing and weapon variety are often two of the most underdeveloped aspects of a game. The whole point of gaming is that you have this new toy that you're going to play with literally. And as a developer, you get the ability to replicate that again virtually by saying, hey, not only do you have this new game to play, but consistently we're going to give you new toys throughout this game. And so like, I think that like to pick up you should be, and you're never going to get it right 100% of the time. You got to develop different guns. They got to offer different things. They got to have their own shortcomings, all that type of stuff. But there should at least be variety there, and they should at least be balanced so that it gives you the opportunity to potentially use them, and it keeps the game fresh.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Returnal is a good example. Again, direct comparison of just giving you a lot of good gun options from launch that were fun to play around with and unlock as you went through the game. And like Doom, and there's a lot of games like it where, especially in a single player game, where the using the gun that kind of most resonates to you, that you have the most fun playing with, are you an up close and personal shotgun player? Do you snipe from a distance? Whatever your game style is, like it is probably, a pillar in and of itself of going, is the gun variety there and are they well balanced? And for Saros, it just wasn't a big enough variety for me. And I think it could have done a little bit more in this category, which is
that's a grievance that would resonate with a lot of other players.
So the other thing in the build category was it actually had a skill tree, which Returnal didn't do. So Saros had this huge skill tree, and you needed 2 specific resources to unlock this nodal network. So you'd get to like an intersection, and you needed a specific resource called Halcyon, I think it's called. And of course, that then forces replayability because you want to go back and get the specific resources to then unlock more of the node. But, like that then forces you to do certain areas again. And like, which is fine. I mean, that is the replayability of it, but I don't know. It just like, it could have been done better, I think. Like, because I've basically finished the game now, and I've got all these kind of nodal segments that I haven't completed because I haven't got enough of that specific resource. So now I'm just doing runs in those specific areas to get that specific resource to then unlock the nodal network.
Do you think that's intentional though?
Whatever tickles your fancy, but the way the resources granted to you, one was far outweighed by the other. It just didn't unlock in a very nicely staggered way. And the other thing with this game is you couldn't skip bosses like you could in Returnal. So if you wanted to do a backtrack run and start from the first biome, run through all whatever 10 of them or 6 to 10 of them, you have to do each boss each time. And that's just not fun. You're like, the bosses are hard. There's 3 categories. In Returnal, once you clear the boss, you can just bypass the whole thing. They designed it that way. And then you'd be like, sweet, I can just run straight onto the next biome and have a clean run without ever having to battle tooth and nail for a boss. Whereas in this one, you have to redo the boss, it seems like, which I don't like.
No.
So the build category, nothing else really to comment on there. So I gave it a 7. It's good. Could it be better? I think personally it's a sideward step from me from Returnal. Which brings us to the last category, loot and extras. So collecting all the text logs, the voice logs, finding hidden areas, fun, gave you more depth to the story, interesting. When you do a run and because of the RNG, that last text log doesn't spawn on that run, you feel like you've kind of wasted 30 minutes to then run it again to trigger the last voice log, whatever it is. Just a little bit annoying, but that was the same issue that had in Returnal. So I don't know if it's a big markdown in that category. So loot and extras, I gave that a 7. I don't think they did anything revolutionary or new as opposed to Returnal. So that gives the overall gameplay of Saros an 8, which then averaging it between the 8.2 of the storyline gave it an 8.1 for Saros. Not as good as Returnal, in my humble opinion. That's Saros for you.
Nice. I like it. 8.1's a good game, man. 8.1 is a fun afternoon.
It's a fun afternoon, but, I don't know. Like, Returnal left a mark on me, and Saros will not. And that kind of, it pains me because, and that's the fear always. It's like when you watch a movie trailer or you hear, they're doing the next da-da-da-da, and you're like, man, expectation. Like, it's just, think of every TV show that has bombed the final season, from fucking Stranger Things, The Boys now, Game of Thrones. Like, how many of these do we hype ourselves up for the payoff? And then you get there and you do it, and it just doesn't hit like you wanted it to. And you're just left kind of with that empty feeling. Unfortunately, that is where Saros has landed for me. And I'm probably going to cop some flack and some comments for this, but I'm, to any listener, I'm going to say to them going, look me in the eye and tell me Saros is a better game than Returnal.
I don't think it's about it being a better game, though. Not all the time. I hear you. And I think you're probably a little bit disappointed because Returnal left a mark on you, and there's nothing like your favorite game in the world. There's nothing like it. How it made you feel, how much entertainment it brought you, how much you loved the storyline, how much it resonated with you, all that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is why sequels to our favorite games never do that well, because they can't do the same product. So you're going to have a different opinion about it. But it sounds, like I don't think it's about it being better. It's about it being its own game. 8.1 is still good. I don't think anything, there won't be many games for you for the rest of your life that are better than Returnal. Even if they try to do it again. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I don't disagree with you. Like, does it stand on its own 2 feet? Yes. Is it a good game? Yes. Am I searching? Am I comparing it against one of my favorite games of all times? Yes. So, it's a fun game. It's worth getting.
I can't wait to play it.
Yeah,
I got to finish Returnal. I got Returnal staring at me on my desktop right now. I can see its icon.
Nice. Well, yeah, it's finish that first, or or not. Play Saros first, because Saros is a little bit easier. Might get you in the mindset for Returnal. But anyway, look, I'm still playing it now, and I probably still play it until Lego comes out, and I jump on that train. So
nice, and I'll jump on the 007 train. Mate, good review. Enjoy
Thanks,
that.
Man. Appreciate it.
Lots of good things to say about that. Very in depth. I like it. I feel like I'm ready to play Saros right now. And
Nice.
I know what to expect. So
Yeah, sweet.
he's done it again.
Done it again. Just wrap a bow on it, T. Let's finish
That's
it up.
it.
I've got nothing else to say. Yeah.
That's it. That's what
Another
we do.
week.
That's what this is. It's just unscripted. Some of it's written.
Heavily scripted, yeah.
We take a lot of care with our reviews, but everything else, just join us every week for a bit of a chat. Follow us on Instagram, The Evening Gamer Podcast, same on YouTube. Probably got TikTok. Until then, I almost forgot my catchphrase. Don't be an NPC.
Keep leveling up, everyone. See you maybe next week or maybe next month. Who fucking knows with us?
See you, everyone.
Ciao.